You're writing a book. You're super excited. And people are like, what's the title? And you're like, oh, I don't know. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins. I am a book coach and I'm co-creator of Two Sisters Writing and Publishing. And we have published 28 books in 5 years. And so I want to talk with you about how to figure out the best title for your book. It's super fun, exciting, and you'll be surprised at how some book titles just sort of pop into the conversation and you're like, boom, there it is. So let's talk about some of the books we've written and published, because the book titles just sort of evolve organically in a really amazing way. So here is the gallery of some of the books we've published here on our website, twosisterswriting.com. And we've published books for journalists, judges, surgeons, government leaders, sailors, uh, executives, all kinds of people. And so one common thing is their books all have to have a compelling title that makes you want to pick up the book and read it. And so I'm going to go through some of these and just share where the titles came from. Here's one. My sister's young adult novel, the Veronica series. She has 3 of them so far, with several in the works. But the first one is called Veronica, I Heard Your Mom is Black. Well, a kid said that to her when she was little. Her name is Catherine, but we're mixed race and kids used to ask us lots of questions. So they're like, Catherine, I heard your mom's black. So that inspired her to write her first novel. And then the next one is Veronica Talks to Boys. And the next one is Race Home Veronica. So those are the 3 issues that the girl in the story, who's 14 years old, these are young adult novels, is dealing with. Boys at school asking her questions, then wanting to just have fun like a normal adolescent teenage girl. But people are so obsessed with race. And then this one is about she's far away from home and something happens and she just wants to race home, and it's a play on words. So clearly you can see how she took a personal experience, named her book literally a line of dialogue from an experience. And then especially the last one has the play on double meaning of race, like hurry home, but race is the reason she's hurrying home. So that's super fun. Now, next is the making point, how to succeed when you're at your breaking point. Let's get a close-up of that one. That would be Master Sergeant Cedric King from the U.S. Army. Come on, get bigger. Oh. Okay, there we go. Yay, excellent. Okay, so that's Master Sergeant Cedric King, former U.S. Army Ranger who lost his legs in Afghanistan. He stepped on an IED, and he was leading his troops through Afghanistan, and he lost his legs. And now he is a triathlete. You can see him running on his blades. He runs marathons, he swims, he bikes. And he's a motivational speaker across America. So Catherine and I had the honor and privilege of ghostwriting this book for him. And we had to interview him a lot in order to do that. And so during the interviews, we did not know what the title of the book was going to be. And all of a sudden he said, I want your breaking point to be your making point. And we're like, boom, that's it. That's the title of this book, Your Making Point. The making point, how to succeed when you're at your breaking point. And again, it just happened organically in the midst of the conversation, the interview for the book. So that's when you hear it, you know it, and it's just such a great moment. Now let's check out this one. My name is Steve Delano Bullock. How I changed my world and the world around me through leadership, caring, and perseverance. Steve D. Bullock. Now, why would someone name their book My Name Is when your book name is already on the book? Well, Steve Bullock grew up in the segregated South. He had a job at Virginia Beach after growing up the son of a sharecropper in the South. He had a job in Virginia Beach where the manager at the hotel where he worked, and he also worked at a bowling alley, the manager said, "Your name is John." And he pointed to the next young black man he worked with. "Your name is John 2." And the next guy, another black man, "You're John 3." So the guy called Steve John 1, and there's two other African American coworkers, they were bellhops at the hotel for the summer, John 2 and John 3. And he's like, "My name is Steve Bullock, Steve Delano Bullock." And the man is like, "You're John 1." And he wrote it on the envelope that he got paid on. So because Steve was not called by his name during those racist times, he was called John, which was just the generic name that the manager decided to call all three of the men. And he was called, of course, worse words during that era. He said his book is going to be called "My Name is Steve Delano Bullock." And guess what? He rose from being a sharecropper's son, growing up in poverty, to becoming the first Black interim president of the American Red Cross, a global humanitarian. He traveled the world to help with humanitarian causes, including Bosnia and when a hurricane struck Central America, as well as tornadoes and other crises across the United States. So his title is a declaration that grew out of a very difficult, terrible time in his life. And now it is forever celebrated on the cover of his book. And that's him in front of the American Red Cross headquarters in Washington, D.C. So beautiful. I just love that. Now let's go to former Detroit Mayor Dennis Archer, "Let the Future Begin." Now, what is that title? Very important. He ran for mayor in 1993 for the city of Detroit. And Detroit at the time had a terrible crime rate. Companies had abandoned the city. Manufacturing jobs were on the decline. The educational system was terrible. There was a high poverty rate. Downtown was an absolute ghost town. All kinds of problems. So he ran for mayor, and he had this young political advisor out of Chicago who had helped former Mayor Harold Washington, named David Axelrod. Well, David Axelrod came up with this slogan for the campaign to run for mayor: "Let the future begin," because the past and the current was not acceptable. The future of Detroit needed to happen. So that became the slogan for Mayor Archer's campaign. He won in 1994. He took over, did 2 terms, transformed our city, turned it into the comeback city of the millennium. People, if you walk downtown, you would not recognize our city because it's so vibrant with new restaurants and people, and it's remarkable. And so he let the future begin. General Motors came back downtown Detroit. CompuWare led the way as well. 3 new stadiums, sports stadiums were built. Casinos were built. Companies returned to the city. Restaurants opened. Loft apartment buildings all over the riverfront. I mean, the list goes on and on. Plus, he secured, under President Clinton, he secured the empowerment zone, which provided all kinds of funding for revitalizing our city. So he literally let the future begin, which is now the present. So I had the honor of helping former Detroit Mayor Dennis Archer write this book, and it's very thick, and the title fittingly is "Let the Future Begin," because that's what he did. And this book explains how he did it. It's his memoir, and it explains how he turned the city around. So I just love that so much. Okay. Let's go next to this book, Lifted by Mike Ritter, in terms of a title, Lifted, A Journey from Trauma to Triumph. So double meaning, super cool way to title your book. Lifted his life was lifted from trauma to triumph. And when you read his story, you're like, oh my gosh, that is trauma for sure. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. And clearly, this is a gorgeous photo of a man celebrating with the very sort of, spiritual gratitude feel with the sunshine and the dawn of a new day. And guess what? The double meaning in the word lifted is he's a sailor, and there's lift and lifted is a sailing term, but you have to read the book to learn what it means. So that's super cool. Lifted, A Journey from Trauma to Triumph by Mike Ritter. Excellent. Now let's go to Mort Meisner. He is a former TV news executive turned talent agent for TV news talent. So if you see anchors or reporters, they're all represented by an agent, Mort. He's one of the leading agents in the country, and their job is to help them always ascend in the industry and get the best salaries and packages for wherever they're going to be reporting and anchoring. So Mort is amazing. He overcame tremendous abuse, addiction, growing up witnessing, racial strife in Detroit, being Jewish and witnessing hatred toward Jewish people. He just has a remarkable story. So he wrote his story, his life story, to share that, and also how he worked as a rock and roll agent in the 70s. Like all the rock bands would come to Detroit, and so he shares all that, and he's no nonsense, very direct, and he made a positive, powerful difference in the industry of TV news. And so his book is titled Enough to Be Dangerous: One Agent's Life in TV News and Rock and Roll. One Agent's Life in TV News and Rock and Roll. So your subtitle is really important, because enough to be dangerous could be anything, right? But here's this man, and you see his face. He wrote it with Stephanie Rupp. And the subtitle tells you, okay, he's an agent and he's in TV news and rock and roll. So without the subtitle, we would have no idea what this means. It's very compelling, it's interesting, but your subtitle is very important to convey to the reader or potential reader what this is all about. So in addition to giving really good focus and brainstorm energy to your title, make sure your subtitle is alluring. So here's another example: The Energy Within Us, an illuminating perspective from 5 trailblazers. The energy within us could mean anything. It could be about meditation. It could be about, being a personal trainer and having really high energy levels in your body. It could be anything, right? But then you see fire and an illuminating perspective from 5 trailblazers. And then there's 5 women's names. So these are 5 executives who shattered the black and glass ceiling in corporate America, specifically in the energy industry. And so the energy within us, again, has double meaning. They were in the energy industry. That's the companies that provide the electricity, the gas and such for your home, or some of the companies that do solar power or wind power. It's all energy, oil. And so there's a double meaning here, because they had the energy within them to shatter, pioneer where no Black women had been before, or Black people in general. And so they had the energy, the power, the perseverance, the tenacity to persevere, and energy was required, a lot of it. And so then here's another play on words: an illuminating perspective. So illuminating, obviously, the light company is going to illuminate your house. And when you read their stories, it's an illuminating experience, because they shed light on all the things they had to overcome as women of color to reach these upper echelons of corporate America. So super powerful. I just interviewed them in a panel discussion on my show, the Goddess Power Show, here on the YouTube channel for Two Sisters Writing and Publishing. So please check it out. It's amazing. These women are powerhouses. So Their title is really powerful, and cover design is a whole nother topic, but very important that coincides. You can see the font, you can see the colors, a lot goes into those decisions. So we'll talk about that on another day. So there's that. Now let's go next to that to The Triumph of Rosemary, a memoir, Judge Marilyn E. Atkins. Okay. So you're like, all right, what's The Triumph of Rosemary? And her name is Judge Marilyn E. Atkins. Well, this is my mother. She was born to an Italian girl and a Black man. And this is her as a baby. She was put in foster care because the Italian grandmother said there will be no Black babies in our family, and she wasn't that nice about it. She used a slur. And so this beautiful baby girl was put in foster care, and she was adopted by a Black family, which was a blessing, but it was a curse because the mother was abusive. So my mother grew up, and at age 19, she married former Catholic priest Father Atkins, Thomas Atkins. So it was 1966. It was still illegal in 16 states for interracial marriage. There was a 25-year age difference. She was 19, he was 44. Their families were not approving of the experience. And then they sparked a scandal with the bishop who said they were going to hell. And then they got married anyway because they were in love. And then comes the family. So here is the cover, my mother, father, Catherine, my sister, and me. And the title, The Triumph of Rosemary, when she was a baby, she was named Rosemary. When she was adopted, they renamed her Marilyn. So Rosemary triumphed over racism, abuse, church scandal, and other challenges that they overcame. So her title is The Triumph of Rosemary, a memoir. Really powerful. So let's check this out. Lynn Day, A Spiritual Journey. She wrote her book herself, and she talks about how uh, hypnotherapy to heal in mind, and hypnotherapy is all about, the subconscious mind and remembering and forgetting, a spiritual journey. So remembering things, but then forgetting and moving on, releasing, healing is a major message in this book. And so the title is just super compelling. Remembering what caused you the pain, and then forgetting, releasing, healing, and moving on during a spiritual journey. Very powerful. And Kim Manning, PhD, she wrote the foreword about what is hypnotherapy and how is it so helpful. Another book we did was we ghost wrote and published Confessions of a Plastic Surgeon. That's pretty clear. Shocking stories of butts, boobs, and beauty. Now, anytime you see the word confessions, that's going to get your attention, right? And there's a fascination with a plastic surgeon. And then when you see the words shocking, oh my gosh, shocking stories of butts, boobs, and beauty, that says a lot. So there's all kinds of big words here that really grab your attention. Confessions, plastic surgeon, shocking, butts, boobs, beauty. And then, of course, the provocative photo is a whole nother show. But this title, I believe, is very interesting, intriguing, because it draws you in. I want to hear the confessions of a plastic surgeon. Can you imagine some of the things that they've seen and heard? Well, you got to read it to understand it. It's pretty cool. So let's go over here to We're Standing by Al Allen. Al Allen is a beloved icon of TV news in the Metro Detroit area, Southeast Michigan. He was on Channel 2 for a long, long time, and he was known for being out in the elements, telling news, reporting news, or talking about the weather, because a lot of times it was snowing. So We're Standing By means that's the thing that the reporter would say to the people back at the studio, saying, "We're ready to go live whenever you say go." So "We're Standing By" became the title of the book, Al Allen. And so Hugh Perkins is he wrote the foreword. He's a longtime beloved anchor here at Fox 2 News in Detroit, and also the host of Let It Rip. And so "We're Standing By" was a very, very apropos title for Al's book, with him and the logo on the station. It just made sense. It was great. All right, let's do a couple more. This is so fun. I just love it. So, "A Young Man on the Front Line," Elaine Mackes, PhD, wrote this book. It is a memoir in her father's voice, but she masterfully wrote it. She's one of my two book coaching students who in 2020 followed my directions and wrote an amazing book that we published. So, "A Young Man on the Front Line, Lessons of War." That is the story. He was 18 years old, drafted into World War II in the army, fought on the front line in France and Germany to liberate Europe from the Nazis, and lessons of war. So, what she did was oral history, journals, and other photographs and research. She reconstructed his story and tells it beautifully. And at the end of each chapter, where he talks about these real life, you feel like you're on the battlefield with him in the frigid temperatures in France, watching people die. And oh my gosh, it's so good because you know what? She balances the grim, gruesome reality of war with beautiful moments. Beautiful moments of humor, friendship, bonding, romance even. And so that makes it more palatable. But it's such a good story. And she ends each chapter with lessons of war, brief, simple lessons that are very applicable to modern day life. So excellent title here. "A Young Man on the Front Line, Lessons of War." Now, if you don't necessarily know what a front line is, then you see the picture of the young soldier, and he looks so young. He's 18 years old, but he looks younger than that. And so, again, the cover art is very important, but the title itself conveys what you're going to get in this book. Now, I want to go over here to Clear: Living the Life You Didn't Dream Of by Herman Williams, MD. This is the first book that we published by someone else. I ghost wrote it. He came to me as a book coaching client, but then realized he didn't want to write the book, so I did. He had written a portion of it. It was very academic and, as he says, not engaging. It was boring, but I jazzed it up and used all the elements that I teach as a book coach. And it's very compelling, and people love this book. In fact, he just had a book signing at a huge golf charity event, and he was featured by the American Heart Association in his town of Nashville, where he lives, and highly celebrated. He's spoken at Harvard with his book, in California at universities. And so it's powerful. But guess what? His story is that he was in medical school. He was a resident, about to become an orthopedic surgeon, playing basketball with his fellow residents who were all anesthesiologists. He had cardiac arrest, age 31, gymnasium floor. 31 years old, cardiac arrest, which means his heart stopped beating, which means he was technically dead. They performed CPR. The EMTs came and had a defibrillator. It didn't work. They had to perform CPR until another emergency crew arrived with a new defibrillator, which worked. But the odds of surviving cardiac arrest outside of a hospital are very small. The odds of surviving cardiac arrest outside of a hospital for an extended period of time on CPR without brain damage, very small. He made it through. He survived. No brain damage. He had a tremendously grueling experience to recover. So he writes about it in the book, and he shares how to overcome a catastrophic illness, how to reinvent your life, because instead of the orthopedic surgeon, he became a hospital executive, now touching lives far more than one person at a time if had he become a surgeon. So here's the deal on the title. Clear is the word they say before they put the paddles, which deliver an electric jolt to the chest to restart the heartbeat. So he said clear as the title because that's what saved his life, first of all. But secondly, double meaning again, clear means he got clarity on his life purpose and all these lessons that he teaches to help you learn from his story. And the bottom line is living the life you didn't dream of. So he was all ready to become a surgeon. And then this happened and he couldn't become a surgeon because this was implanted in his chest, a defibrillator to regulate his heartbeat. Okay. And if he were performing surgery and this thing were to go off, it would impair his ability to do a safe surgery. He could get jolted. If he had, if he had the Bowie knife in his hand, the thing they cut with, or a scalpel, or whatever procedure he was doing, and he got a jolt, that could be very detrimental for the patient. So this device, which saved his life when it was implanted, and that's actually an x-ray of his device. When this was implanted, he was not allowed to become a surgeon. So he had to live the life he didn't dream of, prepared to be a surgeon his whole life. And now he's a hospital executive. So this book tells how he made peace with what life was dealing, and he got clear and then began living the life you didn't dream of. And he shares that message in here. So again, really fun plays on words with powerful, powerful messages. Powerful, powerful messages. This book by Dr. Eduardo Sanchez, Ask Dr. Ed, Baby's First Year, a Survival Guide for New and Experienced Parents. That's pretty straightforward, very clear cut. Love that because it's just tells you exactly what it is. It's for new and experienced parents. It's baby's first year, everything you need to know to take care of a baby. Super, super cool. I want to share the late Honorable Alma Stallworth, PhD. She was a Michigan legislator and she wrote 2 books. This is her life story, Legacy of a Lawmaker, inspired by faith and family. So you pretty much know what you're going to get there, okay? Legacy of a Lawmaker, it's her life story and family. That's how faith and family enabled her to rise to these wonderful positions that made a powerful impact on people everywhere. And then she wrote a second book, Broken Hearts, Like Mother, Like Daughter, a spiritual call for equality in healthcare. So here she is, Honorable Alma Stallworth, and her mother's photo here. Her mother was no longer living, so we used a cover that has the sky, and it's very spiritual, a spiritual call for equality in healthcare. So check this out. They both had congenital heart failure. And so the words broken hearts, her heart's broken because her mother died, but broken hearts means they both had this heart condition. And so they both had this broken hearts, like mother, like daughter. And so I thought that was so powerful and so touching, so, so touching. And so here's another one, The Enemy Within. I wrote this with Dr. Michael Wood. It is a novel, but it's about the obesity epidemic. And that is the enemy within the United States. And guess what? During the pandemic, obesity was a major risk factor for getting sick and not surviving. So the enemy within. There's no subtitle, but that's a pretty intriguing title. Just like Dark Secret, one of my novels, it's about someone who's passing for white. It's a mixed race person, a woman, and she has a dark secret. Literally, her mother's Black. And so she is living this secret life, and this explodes into a scandal of race, sex, politics when her dark secret is revealed. So lots of fun playing with those kinds of titles. We have many more books, but I think we just covered a whole bunch. And so, oh, here's another one. Anthony Moses is a personal trainer, and his book is Total Being Fitness. Creating Balance, a different kind of journal. Super fun. Love Total Being Fitness because it's not just about your body, it's about your mind and your spirit and all the good things that you have to combine for wellness overall. I didn't talk about our anthologies, but we publish anthologies every year featuring the winners of our short stories. And so this is the first annual, and the title is very straightforward. But for 3, 4, 5, and future anthologies, which are in the works now, we actually named them Sea Castle. So we have a mer creature who's like our representative of the whole endeavor because it's super creative, and we feature writers all around the world. That's why it says international writers. So that's pretty awesome. But these are just super straightforward. And then Catherine and I published our 2 power journals so far. We made up this title, Power Journal. We trademarked it. It is the method that I use that combines meditation and journaling. It's a journey of self-discovery, and it enabled me to lose weight. So we created the 28-day challenge for weight loss. And it's all about discovering what inside you is making you do what you do. So Power Journal, a 28-day challenge, workbook number 1, pretty straightforward. Last but not least is my memoir, God's Answer is No, K-N-O-W, Lessons from a Spiritual Life. Now, I had so much fun with that title because I feel like there are forces in life where the answer is no, N-O, but when you have faith and deep spirituality, the answer is K-N-O-W, know that Spirit is there for you, helping you. And so I also wanted to share that lessons from a spiritual life. I'm teaching lessons that I've learned during my spiritual awakening and as an intuitive practitioner who's certified by Lori Lipton at Sacred Balance Academy in Bloomfield Hills. Sharing the lessons, and I actually have a teaching section in the book about how to meditate, how to clear your chakras, how to eat healthy, all kinds of good stuff. So it's lessons that you can learn from my experience and expertise. So I hope that you are now equipped with some guidance on how to select an awesome book title that will help you attract readers by conveying in an interesting way what your book is about. So please do drop me a thumbs up, a comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. Please do share this with anybody who's writing a book and needs some guidance on how to name their book. As you can see, I just talked about memoirs, how-to books, and novels. So the rules apply, and journals. The rules apply, and I hope this has provided you with some interesting and applicable assistance tonight. Please do follow us on Twitter at Two Sisters Writing, the number 2 Sisters Writing. You can also follow me at Elizabeth Atkins. And I want to remind you, happy reading and happy writing. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and I will see you next week for another edition of this awesome show that helps you learn all the things you need to know to write, publish, and promote your book. The 10,000 things you need to know to write, publish, and promote your book. All right, happy writing.